Welcome back, gang. It's Delta from Delta is Gaming. We're going old school intro here with you on the Stamina Templar, the Harvester. I want to spend a lot more time on a couple different things, specifically leveling and the skills and rotation. So getting it down, not just showing off the build, but really explaining how to use it slow-mo and in combat so you guys understand it. Along with the gear that we used in our previous video, Hunting versus Night Mothers versus Twiceborn Star. So, if you want to know what I came up with for a Stamina Templar in the Dark Brotherhood, this is a video for you. Let's go. Let's jab some stuff. Okay, so I re-rolled my Stamina Templar to a Redguard. And the reason why I was having a lot of sustain troubles with kind of the meta, the way it is now, and the Redguard passives, these are my buff stats here. So you still get the 10% stamina, but the recovery doesn't look like a lot because it's tied into this passive adrenaline rush. Every time you do melee attack, and this accounts for biting jabs. This makes a tremendous difference being a Redguard versus being an Imperial. Imperial, you have tons and tons of stats like health and stamina, but you just don't have the sustain, especially if you're doing like Vet Maw and some of these really, really long fights. So that's why I got a new character here called Server Maintenance. I couldn't think of anything else clever, so I went with that. So we're doing pretty much the standard DPS stamina setup that most players are running right now. The nice thing about Stamina Templar is that you don't need to have Maelstrom weapons. You can use all crafted materials and weapons and still be effective. Now there's some other sets from like Vet Maw and some of these others like Alkosh that can make it really, really good, but you don't have to have those to be effective. So what I'm running right now is 4-piece Night Mothers, 5-piece Twiceborn Star like we showed in the video, and I have ridiculous stats, ridiculous damage. The skills here, it's a lot different because most dual wielders are using Flurry because of the Maelstrom weapon. Now specifically, Templar is the one thing that doesn't. And here's why. If you look at biting jabs, it does a lot of damage. It gives us our major crit, that's great. But it's 1.1 second cast time. Now this is 0.6, and it gives basically a huge advantage to the next dot you cast. The thing that makes Templar unique is the fact that this Burning Light passive here gives you a 25% chance to cause extra damage with your Adric Spitter abilities. So every time you're doing a jab, those 4 attacks, you have a chance to proc that. So essentially you're going to proc at one time. The change this patch that made it a lot nicer is she scales off of weapon damage and does physical damage. So it hits a lot harder than in previous patches where it was magic damage, and we had to spec our CP a lot different. So now the Stamina Templar has a huge advantage with Burning Light. Another change, another added advantage is Power of the Light. Now it gives minor fracture and minor breach, and it's really one of the only sources of both of those buffs that is commonly run. Also, it does stores up physical damage, and so you're going to buff the party with this, and it's going to do a lot of damage. Now it's 6 seconds, a very low stamina cost. You can place it on multiple mobs, but you don't want to recast this. This really needs to explode first before you recast it. So it's not something like Rending Slash where it's a damage over time. It's going to blow up at 6 seconds. If you cast it any sooner than that, you basically just wasted all the damage. So this is a really big priority for group play for that extra minor physical and spell resistance. Power of the Light. Now it scales off of max stamina as well, so that's really good for a Redguard stamina DPS, and this is pretty comparable to a magic Purifying Light proc. Really like the group utility with this skill and the Stam Templar. Moving on to the Fighters Guild Rearming Trap, most Stam builds are going to run this. Now a lot of people run different things for Minor Force, like they might install Regard and so forth, but you got to realize this dot, the physical damage this does, can hit for like 10,000 a tick. So it's incredibly effective whether you're using it for the Minor Force or not. So you really need to keep this on your bar. Another thing that it does is boost our weapon damage, because this passive got changed, increasing weapon damage by 3% for each Fighters Guild ability slotted. So we want to have that on the bar. Now for some reason it's giving me 7 seconds of Minor Force. I don't know if that's a bug intended or some passives making it last longer, but I'm still getting 7 seconds. So I cast it, wait 7 seconds, and then it does it another 7 seconds afterwards. So it's like a 14-second buff with a 1-second rearming time. Trap Beast, you gotta have it. Stam and a lot of magic users are using it too for that Minor Force. Rending Slash, this is a dual wield skill, a nice physical bleed damage over time. Does a little bit of damage up front, but it's a nice constant dot. And so basically the dots that we're running, the way I've been explained to is that whatever your main spammable ability hits for, if your ability is outdoing that, outproducing that, is a worthwhile dot. Meaning, so if we hit jabs, it's around about 25 to 30,000 damage, depending on the crit and burning light and so forth. So if you do a poison injection or you do a rending slash, power of light, trap beast, if those things are outproducing your one spammable ability, that's worth keeping it up. Okay? So these are all worth keeping up. Now, Power of Light is because of the minor fracture, minor breach. Ultimate Flawless Dawnbreaker, PvP, I'll use the other morph, but for this, I like the increased weapon damage, combined with the rearming trap. Backbaw, we got Bowski. Now, with the bow, you got some flexibility. I don't have caltrops because, like, I literally just finished the end game for this character, so you have a flex spot in the 5 key. Retreating maneuvers, I just use this when I'm tooling around, getting sky shards, doing things. But really, you don't want to have that here. You want Revigor for extra healing, caltrops if no one else is using it. A couple of utility things here. You could even throw, I got spears in this key. Sometimes I put extended ritual down just for the major mending, then I'll hit a repentance. I've even used breath of life because I just have no healing until I get vigor. So really, this is your flex spot. You can also have another flex spot here, repentance. You don't actually need that most of the time. Now, I use it just because a lot of healers won't actually repent, so I got to do it myself. So I keep it there. Repentance, you got to have it as a Templar. I see the other morph, and I'm sorry, don't use it. This thing is incredible. So another good alternative that I've been using for specifically Vet Dragonstar Arena is the Trapping Webs. So if you're doing like Vet Dragonstar Arena, you have a couple seconds before the mob spawn, and that's 5 seconds before this blows up. So you can just put it on the portal and basically just nuke the portal down. So if you have Trapping Webs here, you can do caltrops here, and then Endless Hail, and your dot damage will just nuke anything down before it even appears. Okay, Endless Hail here. Now I've learned something about Endless Hail that I didn't know, so I want to talk to you about that, and that's the cast time. So essentially when you cast this, it takes 2 seconds before it does damage. So the duration of 10 seconds is actually not accurate. It's about 12 from the moment you press the ability. So let me give you an example of this. So before I was recasting this, it's now 1,000, 2,000. So once it lands, that's when it starts doing damage. So I was overcasting this. If you look at my buff to the right of myself, see it's empty, but it's still dropping arrows. So I was overcasting this. Essentially, it's 12 seconds if you're keeping track, because you still have the 2-second cast time, and then you have the 10 seconds of it actually doing damage. So this can kind of benefit us when we're doing an initial DPS parse or initial parse. What we're going to do is we're going to throw out Endless Hail on the boss or whatever mob we're going at, dropping a meteor, and then hitting a poison injection all at once. So the damage kind of all ticks at once in a heavy attack. So it'd look like this. I'd throw it up, I'd hit my meteor, charge back a heavy, and then boom, let go with a poison injection, and bang, that gives you a huge advantage to start. So Endless Hail. Bow ability, it's a must-have dot. It really is. It does an incredible amount of single target and AoE. So consider this a must thing you got to keep up. Poison injection is our other dot that will just do a tremendous amount of damage over 10 seconds, and then it gets more powerful as the mobs go lower and lower. Keep it up single target fights. Remember, AoE, really, you're just going to keep up another couple abilities. Endless Hail, Spin to Win, and something else I'm going to show you. So poison injection, Endless Hail on our back bar, that's 8, that's 12, and then we're going to do a bar swap. Remember that when you're on your back bar, I'm going to show you here in a little bit, what you want to do is hit them with a poison injection first, then Endless Hail. And you're trying to avoid the bar swap. So let me try to find a mob here and explain why this is valuable. Okay, so we got Uncle Charlie here, the crazy giant, and let me show you what I'm talking about with Endless Hail versus poison injection. So if you cast Endless Hail first, you see how long it takes to do that? And if I do injection first, then that, and then bar swap, now I can go back to my other primary dots, like Rending Slash, like Power of Light, like Trap Beast. So you need to have it naturally come light attack, injection, Endless Hail, bar swap. Light attack, injection, Endless Hail, bar swap. So what I was trying to do for a while was do endless hail injection. You're going to lose a lot of time on that because remember, 2 seconds to cast, lands, and just the animation. Look at how long that animation is. So watch the difference here. Again, charge up a fully heavy. Remember, there's no disincentive to charge up a fully heavy in stealth if you're starting off the fight. Rip that and bar swap. See how much faster that is? And then 2 seconds goes by and it hits. And spin to win. Yay, we're doing AoE. So just key lesson here, if you don't get anything else from that video, try to line up that timing. Now, last ability on our bar is Blazing Spear. Really, you need to have just one Adric Spear ability. This is nice for a stun, but this is great utility. It stuns mobs in AoE. Lumina Shards, if PvP, can drop block. But otherwise for this, I really like this, and it helps your buddies out. The real reason is the Spear passive here, increasing your critical strike damage. Now, we're not going to be on this bar for very long, but it's still worthwhile having one Adric Spear ability for the initial crit on Poison Injection, a couple Endless Hail Ticks, or Meteor if we don't get it swapped. Meteor is still probably the highest producing damage that we have as a Sam Templar, and you want Shooting Star, the one that gives back ultimate for when it's hit, because we do have lower ultimate cost as a Templar, and that's due to our Dawn's Wrath ability, Restoring Spirit. So it's going to cost cheaper than other players. Now, Sork gets it the cheapest, but besides the point, that's going to be your bread and butter. Now, Dawnbreaker here is a lot cheaper. It does physical damage, and it can do really good against Daedrot and Undead. But for the heavy hitter ultimate, try to have one of these lined up for a boss phase. And the combo that you're going to want to do is like hit the R key. So that's R key on my screen is the Meteor. You're going to hit an Endless Hail, hold down it, and then bang. So you're kind of doing the opposite of what I told you for the first initial tick. And the reason why, you're going to take advantage of those 2 seconds of where it doesn't start ticking for damage. Because remember, the very first time you hit a mob, that's when your DPS Parse is going to start. So let me show you if I can't line this up on this little Uncle Charlie over here. Oh, he has only 40k health. Yeah, he's going to die. Alright, ready, Charlie? So you could be in stealth, either way. So, Weapon Power Potion, hit it, Endless Hail, and see ya, Charlie. That's it. So 10k on the crit of Poison Injection. What was that? Meteor hit for the max hit was 21k. Poison Injection for 10k. So if you land those two things together and then go back into your rotation, it's a big DPS. And you can get 40,000 in 1 second if you time it really well. And then go into your rotation. So it would be R, or Ultimate, Endless Hail, Light, Poison Injection, and you close the distance. While I'm closing the distance, I use Power of the Light, so I get that minor fracture. And then let's say the tree is the target, then I just drop down a rearming trap right on it. Rending / jabs. So the trick here with rearming trap is you want to place it right where they're going to walk through, like that, or right on top of them. Now it takes 1 second, so like if I'm melee and someone's charging me, let me kill him. Where are you? Or if I'm melee and I'm on the boss specifically, don't do that. See how I just click it once, right at their feet, rearms. Now the thing about this ability is, how dare you heal? When it rearms, it's not going to give you that big gray-white flash sometimes you'll see, like this. See that? Look, 8.4k unbuffed. That's how powerful it is. So it's not going to give you that big, huge notification all the time, especially if you're in a boss fight and there's a trillion animations going on. If you're on consoles, you need to make sure... what I do is pay attention to how hard I'm hitting. So normally, I can kind of tell how hard my jabs are hitting by if I have my major buffs up. And when it goes down, or the boss isn't in it, or it didn't rearm, you're gonna have a DPS loss of about 12% on your crits. So make sure you monitor your crit on console, because you don't have the add-ons to tell you when it's up. And that's how you properly use it. Okay, Uncle Charlie came back here and respawned, so he has a little bit more health. So we're going to show you the rotation in full on this guy, and then also in a DPS Parse. One last thing I forgot to mention, though, is if you're doing just like AoE trash bowls, I take Power of the Light off and I put in Deadly Cloak. So it gives you AoE damage protection, it does a lot of physical damage, and it lasts 15 seconds. So swap that in for pure AoE pulls. Single target boss fights, yes, Power of the Light, always. But Deadly Cloak is really good just for clearing trash like mob, where it's just, you know, a billion mobs in there and you're going to spin to win. Essentially, you're going to keep that up and do a lot more AoE and be a lot better protected. Okay, so let's say we have an ultimate up and we're going to do our normal rotation with the R key, Endless Hail, Poison Injection. So you would always take a weapon power potion if you have it available. That's going to boost your stats because we don't have major brutality since we're not using a two-hander. So I take that. Now I'm going to hit my R key, Endless Hail, Poison Injection, and Bar Swap. So let's say I did that just so I don't nuke this guy in 3 seconds. Once I come in here like this, I'll hit him. I do Power of the Light. As I get close, I try to proc my weapon enchants. You can see those weapons enchants procced. See that? So Power of the Light, weapon enchants proc with a medium or like held down for 1 second. And then trap. Now the animation on trap is really long, so you can cut that down by just clicking block. See? So instead of 1,000, it's 1. See how much faster that is? So that's going to save you time, thus saving you DPS. And he's dying to the trap. Once that's done, you want to do a light attack again, a rending slash, and then usually what I do is a couple jabs, biting jabs. And that's about 3 seconds, and then usually Power of the Light's down. I click Power of the Light, I go back to an injection, an Endless Hail, and I bar swap back, rending slash, trap beast, Power of the Light, and so on. So, it can seem kind of complex at first, and it is, until you get used to it. But the nice thing about this build is, literally, you can just press one button and be effective. So, watch this. So, if you don't want to do all these crazy, you know, combos and bar swaps, jabs. And jabs. And jabs. I mean, look how hard that's hitting. 7K on a jabs crit. 7K on a jabs crit. And this is just solo buffed. So, Burning Light's hitting for almost 8K. Jab's almost hitting for 7K as self-buff. So Templar is extraordinarily easy just to do damage like that. Alright, time to slow it down and show you a Bloodspawn parse when I'm going full ham and don't have to talk and record at the same time. So we're going to go half speed and we'll kind of show you what a DPS parse looks like. Fully buffed individually. He's going to give me Stalwart Guard, so that's what the laser beam is. And so the start is very, very important. So let's watch how I do this. So I'm going to click my meteor button in the bottom right. You'll see it here go off in a second once he targets. And make sure to tab target if you're on PC so you won't lose any DPS. So I hit it there. Endless Hail. And then, boom, light attack into a poison injection. I bar swap. Power of Light. So I'm getting that minor fracture. I do a little light weave there, and then do a rearming trap, rending slash. You notice I'm kind of light weaving back and forth. It's really, really important to do that to continue to proc your weapon enchantments. That will add a lot of DPS. Power of the Light goes down, so I quickly cast it, bar swap, Endless Hail, and you can see that bar swap really, really fast. Potion comes off of cooldown. Remember, you gotta use those as soon as they're available. Otherwise, you'll lose your major brutality buff. So I'm not using it. Delta, use your potion, bro. You can get them another way, but you really want to use that. And you can see my sustain is really, really good on a Redguard. So I'm just bar swapping, poison injection, Endless Hail, and I'm always light attacking in between stuff. See that? Boom. Always light attacking. Then I fire off my potion. And the number one priority dot you're going to have to maintain is Power of Light. It's not really a dot, but it's just going to give you that big extra boost. I can put down my rearming trap, and you can speed that up with an animation cancel. Dawnbreaker came back off of my ultimate, so I just hit it and then hit a block real quick. And then even though the boss is low health, I'm still going to maintain my discipline and get my dots up. He's not glowing, so I should apply Power of the Light. And once it gets in this kind of close execute phase, you really just want to make sure poison injection's up because it gets stronger. Your couple dots, and then just jabs on through. So if poison injection keeps on ticking, don't go and apply Power of the Light when he has 1 health left. And that's kind of how you do it, a full DPS parse. So it's kind of complex. You're going to get used to the bar swapping. The poison injection, bar swapping, Endless Hail is really a powerful key. But if you can't do this, just kind of maintain Power of Light and jabs your face off. You'll still produce high damage, believe me. Okay, in case you didn't watch the previous video on gear, let's talk about that. I use 5 and 4 setup, so 5 Twiceborn Star, 4 Night Mother's Gaze. When I say 4, that's both my swords. So when I bar swap, I get a lot more crit. So right now I'm unbuffed, but with Twiceborn Star, you get a lot of crit. You don't get a lot of weapon damage, and everyone thinks that weapon damage is the key to PvP, and sometimes it is. But PvE, you have to build things around weapon damage, crit multiplier, physical penetration. Those things are way more important than just stacking 5k weapon damage. Believe me, I'll do way more damage than someone with 5k. I have 75% critical. My crit multiplier is almost at 2.0. These things add up to a lot of damage. Also, physical penetration, having sharpened on my daggers here. That's going to add up. My enchants. Don't just look at weapon and spell damage and go, oh my god, that's a lot of DPS. It's like building a hot rod car. You could have a huge carburetor or a huge fuel injection system on it, but if you got little pistons, little crankshaft, you ain't going anywhere. You got to build the whole thing around synergy. Crit, weapon damage, crit multiplier, penetration. All those things matter, not just weapon damage. And that's what Night Mother's Twiceborn Star excels at. The 2 Bundle Stone that you're going to take is Shadow, so that's going to make your crit harder, which doesn't show up on the stat sheet, hence why a lot of people don't like it. And number 2, Thief, more crit. So you're taking advantage of what the Templar really has a good amount of, which is crit damage due to this piercing spear passive. Adric Spears hit 10% harder in your crit. That's why I stack a lot of crit. I don't really worry about weapon damage. Now, weapon damage is nice on a Templar because you have the 6% bonus here. But you're going to do a lot more damage with the Shadow Thief Mundus combo than, say, the Tower and, weapon damage. It looks cool on the stat sheet, but the DPS charts, it doesn't. And with that being said, you're all going to want Divine's traits. Divine's obviously increases the power of Twiceborn Star, making it very, very powerful. So if you're going to use this setup, it really behooves you to invest in Divines. It really, really does. Divines and going gold. A lot of people are like, well, I'm not pulling the same DPS. I don't have the same numbers as you do. Well, all of your gear is blue. That makes a big difference. If you're at 501 CP, you should be at the exact same stats. If you're anywhere below that, you're not going to have the same stats. Remember that CP doesn't affect weapon damage. It does affect weapon critical if you have to have the 30-point passive in there. So if you're not getting my exact same stats, it's probably because your gear isn't legendary. You don't have everything legendaried out, Kudo-wise. All of your enchants, everything is best in slot, robust, max weapon damage, the best possible enchants. If you want the best possible DPS, healing, or tanking, you got to spend it. You can't buy a Ferrari for 25 grand. The reason why? It's high performance. Treat your character like that. Spend it all on it. If it's in the bank, potions are in the bank, it ain't doing you any good. Drink the potions, legendary out your gear, and press jabs over and over. Stamplar rules to life. Alright, CP, very similar in terms of setup. Remember, this is for PvE. When I say PvE, player versus environment, you're supposed to have a dedicated tank and healer. So that's what we're going to set up our stuff for. So I go 92 in reduced cost and 75 over here in Mooncalf just because I like the passive here. Where is it? Master Gatherer. Reduces gathering time. So it's not exactly min-max. You probably should have about 3 less points in here, but I like that passive. So going over here, the previous video, if you didn't see it, Gil came up with the champion point configuration as this for DPS. 100 into Mighty, 7 into Piercing, 28 into Precise Strikes, and 32 in Thaumaturge. What we did to get that number is stripped our character, did all of the damage without CP to see where the damage sources were coming from. Using Asera's CP guide, we kind of mathematically calculated, or Gil did, to kind of figure out what was the optimal way to put points in here. And this is what he came up with. So it worked a lot better than what I had. You probably shouldn't have any in thick skin, so I'm going to take that out and put here. I do the 120 points in here because I like Unchained. Trick with that, you get CC'd. You can CC break and basically get a free Razor Caltrops. So that's why I like that. I do like the extra healing received on champ points. It seems to work really well with Repentance and Vigor once I get that unlocked. And then also if you do the Major Mending trick with your channel focus or restoring focus or your extended ritual, you can get a lot of self-healing on a Stamped Templar. And that's basically the standard CP setup that I use for most characters. You know, people ask me what to play all the time, whether you're a beginner or, you know, older player or new, you've done it forever. And Templar is really easy. Now, there's ways to optimize it beyond this and get more DPS, but that's just not going to work for everyone. So you have to find a way to the build can work for you. Now I have 5 or 6 dots here that you can apply, but if that's not working for you, don't do it. Literally just use a potion and jabs if that's all you can do. And it works very, very well. Look how hard I'm hitting with this stat. So if you set up your character just like me and you're having trouble doing bar swaps, you're having trouble maintaining 5 dots, don't. Make it simpler. Just 2 jabs. When there's more than a couple targets, do spin to win. That's what the Stamina Templar and the Magic Templar really excel at, is simplicity. Now, if you want to crank it up a notch, you can crank up your DPS as well, but you need to get the basics down. When you're in single target mode, you should be single targeting. 1 target, you're doing jabs and not getting hit by red. More than a couple single targets, you needed to be doing spin to win. And that's basically it for the Stamped Templar. It's not that complex if it really doesn't need to be. Ooh, let's do this chest. Let's see if we get anything. Come on, come on. Come on, big money. Come on, big money. What we get? Anything? Trinamax? Ring? Oh, guy loves a Trinamax. I don't need that. So, anyways, my ADD kicked in there. Make the builds work for you. These are templates for you guys. If you can't craft Trisporn Star, use Hunting's Rage. If you are a orc and you don't want to be a Redguard, that's fine. Use it. If you don't have 501 CP and you're struggling with resources, use a Stam Recovery Glyph instead of all weapon damage. All these things need to be changed based on you. There is no one specific build that works for everybody. I hate to tell you, it isn't, because it just changes based on everyone's gameplay. So I guess the point to this rambling lecture at the end of the video is try to make it work for you. If you have questions, leave me comments in the video, leave comments on the website. A lot of other people answer these, or, you know, watch the video fully, because I do talk a lot about everything in there. An experiment. You know, maybe I'm not right about certain abilities and I've been proven wrong many a times. Try different stuff. Share it with your friends. If your friends are doing something different, ask why. Always the why question, not just tell me what to do. Why am I using that? Biggest thing, if you get anything out of this video, a dot is worthwhile maintaining if it out DPSs your primary ability. So if it can out DPS jabs, meaning 1 cast of it, you want to maintain it. If you can't, just click jabs over and over and over. I do, and it's still fun for me. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully my inspirational lecture hit home, and some of these builds can be a little bit more suited for you guys when you get them. Subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. Magic Templar is next, kids.